Some people think miracles are rare, but what's truly rare is unwavering faith. Most people start off believing, but give up halfway through. Why? Because they don't realize that God's silence is a rejection. It's strategy. And while they wait, they settle for quick promises that only bring deeper disappointment. The issue isn't the lack of response, it's the rush to abandon it. Have you ever considered that maybe the delay isn't about the devil or timing, but your own inconsistency? Yes, that stings, but it also sets you free. Because if the biggest block is within you, then the greatest key is too. And once you get that, you stop chasing miracles. They begin to meet you on the road of endurance. Today, you'll discover why heaven doesn't move by emotion, but by conviction. And what seems to be taking too long may actually be in careful preparation. Just be warned. This perspective might not only shift your current moment, but your whole way of living from now on. There are days when you even doubt your own reflection. Your mind starts playing tricks, emotions get tangled, and worst of all, even those who promise to be there vanish. In these moments, keeping faith feels impossible. But ironically, that's exactly what matters most. Real faith doesn't start with certainty. It starts when everything feels out of control. Most people believe in miracles until the miracle requires them. It's easy to trust when life is going well. But what about when everything falls apart? Think of an average American who just got laid off and watches bills pile up. They need more than just positive thinking. They need a kind of faith that gets them out of bed with no guarantees. That's not naivete, that's spiritual endurance. The truth is, many want to see before they believe, but the greatest miracles happen in silence, in the dark. Maybe that's where the journey truly begins. Trusting before there's evidence, believing before the breakthrough, planting even when a harvest seems uncertain. And once those roots take hold, even the clouds can't hide the change that's coming. Imagine praying for something for years, quietly dreaming about it, and when the answer finally arrives, you doubt it. That's what happened to Zechariah. Even as a man of faith, he froze in front of God's promise. It shows that faith doesn't mean you're fearless. It means choosing to trust despite your fear. And when we doubt, sometimes God silences us, not out of anger, but to stop us from sabotaging what he's about to release. That silence placed on Zechariah wasn't punishment. It was protection. Think about it. How many times were you on the verge of something great, but fear made you step back? A job offer, a healthy relationship, or even moving to a new city. Doubt gets loud and we retreat. But when God closes a mouth, it's because he's opening a much bigger promise. Even without his voice, Zechariah witnessed a miracle. Sometimes silence is the only way to truly see. Instead of filling the moment with your own opinions, maybe the best thing is to observe, trust, and let God lead. Silence might feel uncomfortable, but that's usually where the extraordinary starts to take shape. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice the early signs of something impossible coming to life. Mary wasn't the most experienced, nor the most prepared, but she was the most available. While many would have asked, "Why me?" she said, "Here I am." That changes everything. God doesn't look for the most qualified, but for the most surrendered. And here's the interesting part. She also had doubts, not about God, but about herself. Heaven doesn't require self-confidence. It asks for willingness. How many times have you hesitated because you didn't feel good enough? Maybe you thought you lacked the right money, the right look, the right background. Mary didn't feel ready, but she trusted anyway, and that opened the path for a miracle that shifted history. In other words, what looks small in your hands might be massive in God's. But first comes inner conflict, and this is where many people get stuck. Purpose-driven, gifted, spiritually connected, and still not prospering. Why? What's blocking the abundance that once felt so close? It's a tough question and even tougher to answer. But by the end of this video, you'll uncover the truth behind it, and it might change the way you see your entire journey. Oh, and check the pinned comment. There's something there that could unlock a whole new chapter. Some people think a forgotten prayer is an ignored one, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Time may have gone by, life may have shifted, but God doesn't forget what was brought to him sincerely. He remembers every whisper, every tear-stained night, when the only option left was to kneel down. And even when everything feels stuck, a lot is already being aligned behind the scenes. Waiting is where faith matures. Many pray for years, for a job, a healing, a child, a reconciliation, and it feels like nothing is changing. But what most don't realize is that God is never inactive. He just works in silence when preparing something extraordinary. One simple yes from Him can turn everything around in a moment. But before that, He tests the consistency of our trust. And this is the real challenge, to keep believing when nothing answers back. Divine silence isn't indifference, it's training. That prayer you made years ago, it's still alive before Him. And maybe what you thought was buried is exactly what's about to unfold. So don't quit now. The answer might already be on its way, even if you can't see it yet. Not every silence is absence. Sometimes it's protection. God didn't silence Zechariah to punish him. He did it to protect what was still in the making. When faith is fragile, the mouth can become dangerous. We tend to speak what we see, not what we believe, and in key moments, that can sabotage what God is trying to build. That's why sometimes heaven tells us to stay quiet, so we don't ruin what's still taking root. Ever gone through a season where no one listens, nothing responds, and every word feels like it hits a wall? Maybe that silence is a rejection. It's redirection. Sometimes the voices around us, or even our own, get in the way more than they help. So God reduces the noise to let the seed grow undisturbed, like building a shelter around a fragile plant to protect it from the wind. And what's fascinating is that in the moments we say the least, we tend to hear the most. When everything goes quiet, our inner noise shows up, and that's where God does deep work. Silence teaches, refines, and heals. Maybe what you're calling a hard season is actually a cocoon. And when the cocoon breaks, it doesn't bring out more of the same. It reveals transformation. God's promises aren't empty words. What He says, He fulfills. Even when everything around seems to say otherwise. The birth of John the Baptist and Jesus wasn't random. It was the exact fulfillment of words spoken long ago. And when heaven releases a promise, it doesn't matter who doubts, mocks, or dismisses it. God's word doesn't need applause. It just needs time. And the right time always arrives. How many times have you felt something in your heart, seen a clear sign, and later thought, maybe it was just my imagination? That's where many give up, in the gap between the promise and the outcome. But waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation. Anyone who plants a vineyard knows it takes time to see grapes. And those who truly believe tend the soil while they wait. What God promises, He sustains. And when it happens, it doesn't go unnoticed. Everything shifts. The atmosphere changes. People notice. And the most powerful part? What once felt like mere hope becomes a testimony that stirs faith in everyone nearby. So even if you don't see results yet, keep watering. Because what's real in heaven will soon become visible on earth. A miracle is never just about the person who receives it. It's a living message, a clear sign that heaven is still moving on earth. When God acts, even non-believers have to admit something extraordinary took place. That's the power of a miracle. It doesn't just change the situation. It gives voice to something greater. Something that goes beyond logic, statistics, and explanation. And when that happens, it can't be hidden. Sometimes, the miracle in your life is the answer someone else was waiting for. Your healing inspires someone who was about to give up. That open door reignites hope in a heart that thought it was too late. That's why sharing your testimony matters. Speaking about what God did isn't boasting. It's service. It's like lighting a torch in the dark and saying, this way leads somewhere. And even when no one believes, God keeps working. Because miracles don't need an audience, just a purpose. And the more unlikely it seems, the greater the impact when it happens. The world may doubt what you're carrying, but when it's born, even skeptics will see it was never your imagination. And that leads us to an even deeper truth, because, and maybe what you need today is another explanation. It's a decision to keep believing, even if you're tired, frustrated, or can't see a way out. God hasn't forgotten what He promised. He doesn't have lapses or lose track of time. Everything He spoke is still unfolding. And when He moves, not even the impossible can stand in the way. But before the breakthrough comes, there's always a test of endurance. It's easy to believe when things are going well. The real challenge is standing firm in the valley. But that's exactly where character is built, where faith is strengthened, where your identity is revealed. Don't give up now. You didn't come this far by accident. What looks like a delay may just be the final adjustment before the promise arrives. And those who stay, they see not just a miracle, but the loving detail in every step. So keep going. Pray one more time. Wait a little longer. Trust as if it's already happened. God is not indifferent to your tears or blind to your silence. He's a father, present, attentive, faithful. And if you're still hearing this, it's because he's still writing. It's close. And maybe, just maybe, all you need right now is to not stop too soon. Now that you've taken all this, and what are you going to do with it? Will you let it fade away? Or will you start putting into practice the kind of faith that transforms realities? Because belief alone isn't enough. You need to live aligned with what you claim to trust. The faith that moves mountains is the same one that withstands a storm. And maybe what you truly need right now is another miracle, but a new mindset. If you've come this far, you've already realized God isn't distant. He's just waiting for the right moment. The real question is, will you be ready when it comes? Think about that. Now share in the comments. What will you commit to from today on? What will you lay down, and what will you hold tight? Let's keep this fire alive together. And before you leave, check the first pinned comment. There's a powerful resource there that digs even deeper into this exact theme. Why so many spiritual people struggle to prosper. That might just be the missing key you've been searching for. But only those who pay close attention will catch it.